I honestly find this interesting, not just because the whole snitching infatuation on the internet and everybody likes talking about people and breaking down. Did they tell? Did they not tell? Did they give up information that breaks street code? Um, not because of that. Because sometimes there's just a disconnect. There's a disconnect sometimes, even amongst street niggas. You'd be surprised how many people that are in the streets and don't fully understand street code. Even civilians, you got a lot of civilians that don't understand street code. Somewhere in the mix of street code and civilian life is also morals and principles, right? So, regardless of which side that you stand on, you're still supposed to be able to apply morals and principles. Now, there are justifications for being able to, like, let's say, cooperate with police or authorities when you're a citizen, right? The old lady on the porch, she calls because everybody's outside of her house making noise or conducting drug sales. Nobody has an issue with her. Now, if you look at me, I'm not some old lady looking through my blinds. You look at me. If I come out on my porch and I see some people doing hand to hands and I call the cops behind that, y'all could say ARP is a snitch, right? You really can't put that tag on me, to be honest, though, because I'm actually a civilian. What you could say is he's like a tattletale or some shit like that, right? But a snitch and a rat and all of that. And therein lies one of the problems that we're going to address here. I'm going to pull up the lawyer's response to response to Young Thug. So where did this start? Young Thug had a music clip that came out recently, and he's in the music clip. It must have been in the studio or something like that, playing some new stuff. And he says some of the lyrics, something to the extent of "never associate with a rat." Okay, Gunna's lawyer came out and he pretty much responded to Young Thug about that. So let's bring that up on the screen and let's take a look at where Gunna's lawyer went with that. Let's go to the bigger one here. All right. Woo. Gunna's ex lawyer claps back after Young Thug mentions rats in new song snippet. Okay, cool. Not a big deal. That's pretty much the backdrop. Okay. I was Gunna's attorney, but I am not speaking on his behalf. This long post is solely to set out the truth. Gunna did not cooperate and did nothing and said nothing to cause harm to Thug's case. He spent 8 months in jail and was released in December 2022 after entering an Alford plea. I believe this is the lawyer's name, Sadow. Sadow pointed out that Thug's trial never brought up Gunna's plea and they never named him as a witness. And then we get back into his actual quote from his tweet. Gunna's plea could not and was not used in Thug's trial, and he was never even named as a witness. He received a 5-year suspended sentence with no reporting, no travel restrictions, no living restrictions, and no probation. Sato continued. And if you really want to look at the full thing, it's pretty much a combination of all that. This is what he looks like, Steve Sadow. This was Gunna's lawyer once again. And this was him coming out and really flipping on that Young Thug clip that went run around the internet. Let's start here. Why did he even come out and address this? I would say Gunna has yet, to my knowledge, acknowledge or come out and address the snitching allegations, right? Gunna has gone on to, dominate. He's gone on to do a great job. He's gone on to chart. He's gone on to have a bigger career than when he got arrested in the first place. He's gone on to pretty much prove that whatever you call him really didn't matter. Whatever you classify him really didn't matter. I promise you, I'm in full belief that if Gunna never addresses this, he's fine. I think the moment that Gunna opens his mouth about this, addresses it, goes crazy, does a sit down and starts to really, really break this down and try to address any claims on his name about being called a rat. I think he's going to open it up to all this type of criticism and people picking apart his words. I think right now he's kicking ass. He's in a better position career wise than Young Thug and Little Baby is. And who would have thought? Who would have thought? So Gunna should never address this. Why would the lawyer come out and address this? My first thought is that the snitch and the ratting allegations, especially if Young Thug puts out a song and inflames it, calling Gunna directly or indirectly a rat. The lawyer probably doesn't like the fact that, all right, this is my client, and I'm the one that pretty much advised him towards this Alfred plea. I'm the one that advised him based on how he was going to get out of jail early and not have to come back into trial possibly and be called as a witness because he's pointing out things like that. He never had to testify, and the stuff that he said was never used against Young Thug. It never hurt him, So I think the reputation of him as a lawyer and seeing that he can have potential clients that are in that type of realm of the streets, defending ex criminals or gang members or people that might face the RICO and stuff like that. People might look at him and be like, damn, whatever you did and however this went down, Gunna, at the end of the day, he came out and people still call him a snitch because everybody that you represent ain't gonna be Gunna. Gunna could go be on the road. He could have paid security. He could live the lifestyle, the lavish lifestyle of a multi-millionaire. Whereas some of these other clients that a lawyer has, okay, they come out with a snitch label and they go right back to the hood. It might get them killed. It might put them in some very, very uncompromised situations, right? So that's the only reason why I could see him. I mean, unless Gunna came out and or not came out, but Gunna hits his lawyer up and said, "Man, put out a statement for me, man. I'm tired of this shit." You know what I'm saying? It's got to be one of two things. But there is a major, major disconnect as far as the lawyer's understanding of how all this works. And I'm also going to point out something that's very, very critical. And I'm going to give you guys further examples of where this street code is 1000% tarnished. And if you ever hear somebody do this, you need to remove yourself from their circumference ASAP. Okay. But let me still pull this up and let's just do a quick revisit. And I promise people, after this live right here, I'm never going to do another live breaking down is Gunna a rat? Is Gunna a snitch? Did he violate street code? I will cover Gunna. I will cover Young Thug. I'll cover current events. But as far as what his true classification is, did he really, really snitch when we think about what the Alfred plea is? Or no, he flat out snitched. No, I don't give a fuck what his lawyer says. That I'm never gonna. This is the last stream. I'll never do that again. It's really not worth it to me. And I feel like people's gonna stand where they're gonna stand anyway, because when it comes to talking about street code and when it comes to establishing a rat or a snitch, there's millions and millions and millions and millions of people with their own definition of that, and they put it in the gray area. They say if this then that, instead of black and white. If you do this, yes, or if you do that, no. Right? So it's kind of getting annoying and redundant to me. But let's check this out real quick, and I just want to refresh my own mind as well.
Court, some startling statements.
Please state after each statement whether or not you agree or acknowledge that statements are true, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I became affiliated with YSL around 2016. Is that true as it pertains to you, Mr. Kitchens?
Yes, ma'am.
YSL is a music label and a gang, and you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
You were present when law enforcement officers stopped a vehicle in which you were present along with Jeffrey Williams, wherein hydrocodone, methamphetamines, and a firearm were recovered. These items did not belong to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you acknowledge the following statement? I recognize, accept, and deeply regret that my talent and music indirectly.
Court, some startling statements.
Please state after each.
All right, the Yes Man footage. It went super duper viral. We all saw it. Just a quick refresher. All right. The first thing I want to say coming off of that footage is I think one issue that a lot of people have as well is the nature of the word snitch and rat within itself is so compounding. It's so tarnishing to somebody's reputation and to their name and to the stripes that's on their jacket. People hate the word. Here's a word to replace with rat or snitch that's going to carry the point that I'm about to make about what Gunna did, as well as other examples I have coming up. Just call it a cooperant, right? Or cooperation. So if we're going to take the word cooperant or the label cooperant or say the word cooperation and just replace that with snitch and ratting or rat, okay, let's just use that. If you're a cooperator, It's not breaking street code once again if that is not your lifestyle, if you are not a street nigga, if you are not a criminal, or I could even bring it down even lower, people. You don't have to be a career gangster. You didn't have to be representing or gang banging for 10 years. You didn't have to be in the streets for 15 years, right? You could have just simply had an impulse to do one bad thing, one bad time, and you broke out of that code because you had an issue or you cooperated while you were possibly facing authorities for what you did. For example, I lived a straight edge, clean life my entire life. I never broke the law. I never committed no crime. I was never a gang banger. I was never in the streets. I was never a street nigga. I was a straight A student. I went to college. I came out. I started working a 9 to 5. I paid my taxes at the top of every year. I don't bother nobody. That's my life, right? I come across some type of life hardship. Things go crazy. I could use some movie shit. I could go John Q with it. Okay, John Q. I find out a loved one needs an organ donation or something like that. I break it to the hospital. I put it under siege. I lock the doors and all that type of shit. I've been down pistol whipping people. I'm breaking the law. I'm turning into a criminal like this. Okay. Now let's say one of the doctors in the hospital helped me get in to the wing that had my family member that was undergoing surgery or whatever, so I could hold them at gunpoint and make sure they do the surgery until or before the insurance comes in, right? John Q is the premise of that Denzel Washington movie, if y'all never seen that. Okay, he did it for his son. But anyway, if I get caught, if I get taken to the authorities, right, whether I'm sitting in the box, whether I'm talking through the bars to the authority, whether I'm standing in front of the judge, right, and they say, yo, how did you get in there? And I say, Dr. Jeffries is the one that let me in. Even though my whole background is not that of the streets or street code, and I only broke the law for this one situation, I'm still a snitch. I'm cooperating and I'm possibly hurting somebody else during my segment of cooperation with authorities. Okay, right? Telling them information that can possibly hurt somebody else, even though I was involved in that crime or that activity. Now, there's a word that I said in there that is extremely detrimental to the lawyer not getting it, as well as upcoming examples. When I said possibly, the moment that somebody says, I didn't get nobody locked up, run for the hills. Run for the hills. I mean, no disrespect, right? But I saw King Yeller do that. And I was just like, ooh, big no, huge red light. It is what it is, right? King Yeller's been combating the snitch label for quite some time, right? Supposedly he got grabbed up and during either a motion for suppression or during interrogation, whatever it was, he was asked questions about like Snap Dog, and he was asked questions about people like 600 Breezy, and he was co-signing and saying yes about their gang affiliation, etc. Right? And let's say that interrogation and that information or answering those questions, yes or no, even if it was public knowledge, never got those people in trouble. Let's say no detective ever listened to King Yellow's answers, interrogation, or read his suppression motion, whatever it is, and they never went and grabbed 600 Breezy and said, "Hey, I knock on your door because King Yella said that you's a BD or use a GD or use a gang member," right? That never happens. Does that remove being a snitch or being a rat or cooperating or being a cooperant off of the table? It 100% does not. And anytime I hear these street niggas say that shit, it scares the shit out of me. Because if they really, really mean it, then they don't even understand the street code themselves and they're supposed to be street niggas. Or even worse, they do understand the street code, and that's an excuse, once again, that should make anybody around them run for the fucking hills. If I walk into my local precinct right now, right, if I'm a street nigga and I got competition, right, I got my workout on this corner and this corner and this corner. And then 2 more corners down, 2 more streets down, there's a product that's out. It's on some blue magic shit. It's competing with mine. They clipping my customers coming down the block before they're making it to me. Even my regulars is going over there for the blue magic now, right? But I'm a dealer. But my money is slowing down because these niggas is clipping my customers. Cool. I walk into the precinct and I say, Sergeant, I'd like to have a conversation with a detective. And he says, all right, give me a second. Brings a detective out. The detective says, hey, what's going on? I say, nice to meet you, man. ARP, man, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to tell you about some illegal drug activity that's happening in my neighborhood. He said, all right, come with me. Takes me into his office. We sit down. Hey, man, you good? Want something to eat? You good and comfortable, whatever? They don't even got to offer those people nothing because they're there on their own will, right? And I say, look, man, on Broadway and 159th, this guy by the name of Larry out there. You could catch him running the shift between like 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. He's out there and he's serving customers, yada, 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 yada. I promise you, if you roll up, you could catch him. Detective looks at me. He says, I appreciate it, man. He shakes my hand. He writes down some information. I walk out the precinct. Larry never gets arrested. That detective never even goes to that block. He never cares about the information that I gave him. Does that change me being a snitch or not? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Just because your information isn't used or nobody got locked up does not remove what you did. And anytime I hear people say that, it scares the shit out of me. Nope. They think about it. They say it all the fucking time. They'll be like, nobody got locked up behind my actions. So that's not what changes your status from actually cooperating or answering questions the way you shouldn't have, or saying yes, or snitching or ratting. It doesn't change what you did just because nobody got locked up. That shit is insane. And the lawyer is making the same mistake here. The lawyer is saying that nothing that my client said was used in the trial. He was never called as a witness, and it didn't affect Young Thug. That's great. But technically, Gunna rolled the dice then on that. I think it's a good thing for Young Thug and for Gunna that he wasn't called to the stand, that none of his shit was used or not, right? That's good. That's great. Whether it could or it couldn't have been in certain circumstances based on the Alfred plea situation and all that type of shit, all the little, details to an Alfred plea, some yes, some no, whatever. But we just played the clip of what Gunna did. And the only thing that really removes Gunna from what he did and what he said in co-signing anything that is negative or the co-signing of laws being broken, right? The only thing that would remove him from the label that a lot of people wasn't scared to give him is if he really, really this whole time was a civilian and never give a fuck about none of that gang shit. Then the only question becomes morals and principles, because isn't Young Thug your boy? Isn't that your friend? Or is that just your label mate? Now, if it's just, that's the only thing that removes everything. Look, man, I don't fuck with him like how Alex Spiro tried to do with Jay-Z and Diddy. Like, look, man, Diddy's not Jay-Z's friend. He's not my client's friend. They just see each other at basketball games and network at engagements. Like, that's what it would have to be. Yeah, I signed to his label. We're not friends. I'm not, there's nothing about me trying to hold him down. And on top of that, I don't give a fuck what you heard of my music. I'm not a street nigga. I'm not a gangster. I never was. I never represented YSL. I never partook in none of their shit. I just threw it up and mentioned it in the songs because that was the label. And I was just following behind. But other than that, I'm a law-abiding citizen and I don't really fuck with them niggas anyway. This is just my career. This is just my job. Then you're removed. You're removed from the principal side and the moral side of that. Yeah, you're removed because you're saying you don't fuck with them. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of y'all that never seen your manager or your boss outside of work, a lot of y'all have no loyalty to him other than the fact, or her, other than the fact that they cut your check, right? That's the only thing that will remove Gunna. And I try to be very respectful and careful with that whole rat and that snitch thing. You know what I'm saying? They say you never do that unless there's paperwork, but sometimes there's video as well. And I'm not here to do like I wish Gunna the most success in the world. I just don't think that his lawyer coming out and doing that helps him at all because that's the disconnect. The moment you say nothing that my client did actually affected Young Thug, it shows me that you don't understand. It shows me that you don't understand. You don't have to be arrested. You don't have to be affected. Your words don't have to be used in court or in an arrest or in paper or anything to remove the fact that what you did was violation. What you said was violation. And no, 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 no. Hey, shout out to King Yella and everything he's got going on. But there is no whole what I said is already public. There's a million things that's already public. I'm gonna make this last point about that. Because those are the two things that really kill me in all this that I hear these street niggas say. It's a million things that's already public. All the Little Dirk songs were public. I really can close the stream right there. All of his songs were public. All of his lyrics were public. But what's in the indictment? Whether it happened a year later, 2 years later, right? Whether they never used it. Okay, so they used the green light go shit in his current indictment, right? We know that there's worse lyrics than that he has out there. We know that there's worse songs than that out there. We know that as rap fans and as Little Dirk fans, we know that. It's not in the indictment though. And hopefully it doesn't go into the indictment for Lil Durk's sake and his family's sake. But we know that there's worse shit than that green light go, go, go. That's already publicly on the internet, right? So just because something is already public, now if I sit down and I'm under arrest and I'm in front of the authorities, they grab me because I just got caught with some drugs, right? With intent to distribute, right? And while I'm there, they asked me, I got caught in California. And while I'm there, they asked me, by the way, you know anything about this Little Dirk situation? And I say, listen, this is what y'all need to do, man. Stop focusing on that green light go lyric, man, and go to the song Beverly Hills. That song right there, that's going to help you guys' case more to prosecute. And they say, really? The detective on this case, I'll pass along that information. Maybe he didn't know about that song, right? Even if it doesn't go into the indictment, what did I just do? Right? So that's what King Yella says. He says, I'm only speaking on stuff that's already public, right? Okay, yeah, we know that this guy right here is a BD. We know that this guy right here is a GD. We know that this guy is a gangbanger, right? But if they're in the process of being investigated and the authorities are collecting information on them and building a case on them, and you sit down and you co-sign it, it's not the same. It's not the same. You have just broken the code. So if you don't want to break the code, the only thing that you can do in that situation right there is say, so this person right here that you did the song with, is he BD or is he GD? The only thing that you're really supposed to say is, I don't know. I'm not sure. If you're going to speak at all, right? Because you do have the right to remain silent. You can let your lawyer talk for you. But if you're going to talk, even if you're going to do like a dark low type of thing where it's like, I'm going pro se, where I'm representing myself, not a lawyer. That was with Dark Low, the angle that he went towards. And I'm going to leave Dark Low alone because I love his music. I'm going to leave him alone. But wait, I'm going to leave Low alone. But if you speak at all, because like, let's say you're really, really in the process of representing yourself without a lawyer, right? If you speak yourself, you cannot co-sign that stuff. Is this person a BD or a GD? Am I supposed to say, well, let me think. Hold on. What the detective is asking me is already public, so that gives me the space to say yes. If anything, what do you hear people say even about their worst enemies? They say, I don't even wish jail on my worst enemy, right? Even if it's your ops, you're supposed to follow the code, right? So if you know the police have a thing against gangs, right? You're not supposed to say it's public and they already know. So I'm gonna say yes, he is. If anything, you're supposed to say, I don't think he is. Actually, I don't know. And if you go past that, I don't know, but I don't think he is. Maybe that's just music. You don't say yes, he. Why are we still here, man? His lawyer doesn't get it. And I feel like tweets like that create all the people that's talking about it now, like lives like this, because he doesn't get it. And then you just keep opening the wounds of what Gunna really did. Instead, let time continue to heal that. Gunna's being extremely successful. He's rose back to the top. He's doing his thing. Obviously, the people that are lining his pockets don't care, regardless of how you define it, whether you think it's gray or not. It's really all supposed to be black and white. The moment people go into the gray area and change the circumstances about the label snitching or ratting, those are the people you have to be careful around. Because you can't say, like, well, if I was really there because my friend needed help, it's all telling. The moment you cooperate in anything that could be used negatively or anything that casts negative light towards the authorities, that's black and white. It's snitching, it's telling, it's cooperation. You're a cooperant, you're an informant, whatever the case may be. If those are the codes that you hold up or held up, I should say, it's that fucking simple. So just let Gunna be Gunna and go somewhere, lawyer, because you don't understand either. You're just hurting them even more.
Don't confuse silence with work ethic. I'm a boss, making decisions my first fetish. The verse cherished is perfect, that's a reverse blemish. I drop it, connected to block, learn Tetris.
This is the Sorry True Podcast. Welcome to the house of. And shout out to the members.
Red